Karen, Marsha, Vivian, not Vivian, Victoria, Vicky, and Vicky's dog, Melina, Melinda, welcome. All right, I'm actually setting up on a bolster, which we're gonna need in just a little while to do a little bit of new approach to opening the groins, at least new to me. So if you want to just go ahead and sit up on your bolster, do so, or at least have one nearby. Also, when you do choose to sit up a little bit higher, I automatically feel that I get some extra release in the groin and a release and broadening across the lower back. But you can still do the manual adjustments with your hands for your thighs, for your calves, and for your feet. The other thing, when I'm sitting up higher, I often put a little something between my knees and my feet so that my knees don't go down too far and kind of pull me too far forward. Okay, so that's what this extra blanket is for, that's underneath my legs. Sorry, that was one of my many wake up alarms going off. So press the tops of the feet down into the floor. Energetically lift those ankles up. You'll feel the firmness come into the outer hips and your sitting bones draw in, and that results in a lift that comes into the chest. Lengthen up through your side ribs and roll your shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit so you get a nice lift and a nice broadness across the chest. And close your eyes and fold your palms together to your heart. So folding the palms together, there's actually a lot involved in that process. One thing is that you really want to evenly press the whole surface of the palms against each other. And we tend to hold that kind of lightly. But actually from the elbows, if you'll really press through the wrist bones and do that more strongly, you'll feel that that actually lifts the chest and opens the chest a little bit more. All right. Then press your thumb into your sternum a little bit, but then use that pressure to lift up against so you get even more lift in the center of the chest. And you'll feel your trapezius muscles release down. And then you can also use your forearms to lift the rib cage up a little bit more. And when I do that, I felt that my abdomen drew in toward the spine, and I got more broadness in the collarbones. So it is partially just a traditional symbolic way of beginning the yoga class. Heard it explained in a variety of ways. There's a recognition of our own Atma or soul, a connection and a recognition that everyone else has one too, and then an awareness of the grander, more universal sense of soul with the upward lifting of the middle fingers. Yeah. But all that aside, it's also a really helpful postural adjustment as well, if you really take advantage of it. Now turn your awareness to your breath, and as you inhale, make yourself taller from the tailbone all the way up through the head. Keep that height, and as you exhale, move the prana, the energy of the breath, outward toward your side ribs and armpits. Inhale, make yourself tall. Keep that height. Exhale, make yourself broad. Inhale, extend yourself. Exhale, expand yourself. And really that's what we're doing in the practice of yoga, is that we're extending our awareness and expanding our consciousness through the practices of asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and the more esoteric limbs of yoga to the extent that you practice those. Now follow the exhalation with your mind, like it's a pathway or a thread that you can follow from the outer world toward the inner world, that inner landscape of you, the domain of yoga. Use your exhalations to take your awareness there. And then from that still place within, let's chant 3 Oms together. that sound with your mind. Follow the reverberation of the sound with your mind. And then from that space, inhale once more. Keep your chest well lifted and broad and bring your chin down to your chest. And your hands down to your thighs with your palms up. And then raise your head and open your eyes. Stretch your arms out in front of you and interlace your fingers well. And turn your palms toward me. Lengthen up through the side ribs and extend from the elbows to the wrist bones and pull back a little bit on that little pinky side of your hand so that you can feel those outer shoulders tuck in a little bit more. Then reach your arms all the way up above your head. Press down with the feet, energetically lift the ankles up. Continue that lift up through the side ribs and the armpits. Reach up as much as you can. Now inhale and lift your chest a little bit more, and then exhale and bring your chin down to meet your chest. Then move your arms back a little bit more, up a little bit more, back a little bit more, up a little bit more, and then raise your head back up. So tuck your head out of the way for a little while to get more of that length in the side ribs. Now maintain that length in the side ribs as much as you can. Notice which finger you've got on top and bring your hands down, and then switch the grip of your fingers. Spend a little extra time trying to work the webbings in against each other. And just even that attempt to get a little tighter cross is good for the flexibility of the fingers. Then stretch your arms out and turn the palms toward me. And then the tendency is to push through the fingers themselves. But if you could actually think more about extending through the wrist bones, there's actually still a little bit of a rounding shape that comes into the palms, really like you're almost still doing the Shirshasana position. Then pull back a little bit more with the little finger side of your hand. Then reach your arms all the way up. And go back to the base and press your feet down and lift your ankles up. Continue that lift up through the side ribs, the armpits, through the elbows, through the wrist bones, and lift up so much that you feel extension in the rib cage and also the abdomen drawing in a little bit. All right, then inhale and feel the breath move up into the chest. Keep that, and as you exhale, bring the chin down to your chest. And now you've got a little bit more room to work with. So reach your arms up a little bit and move them back. Reach your arms up a little bit more and move them back. Then go ahead and put your head back where it's right in line with the spine. That looks good, everyone. Keep that nice extension through the sides of the torso as you release your hands and come all the way down. Take the blanket out of the way for just a second and go ahead and stretch your legs out into Dandasana and have a strap. Then put the strap around the feet, right at the base of the heel, bottom of the arch. Join your big toes together or keep a little space between them if that's more appropriate for you. Lift up through the quadriceps and the inner thighs. Now really pull on that little toe side of the foot. Okay. It's very similar to the idea of pulling back through the little finger. Okay. So when you lift up through that little toe side of the foot, it helps you get some extra firmness in the sides of the hips. And now lengthen up again through the side ribs and pull on the strap and roll the shoulders back. Then lift up and turn your biceps a little bit up toward the ceiling, and you'll get a little bit even more lift come into the chest. Keep your arms straight. Lift your chest a little bit more, Bob. Good. All right, then bring your opposite leg in first, whichever leg you didn't start with. Okay. You can make all your postural adjustments. Putting my little bit of blanket back in. All right, same thing except for bound thumb pose. So get the length in the sides of the torso and roll the shoulder bones back. Shoulder blades in, away from the neck and into the center of the body and up a little bit so the chest opens. Then hook one thumb over the other thumb. Pull your thumbs against each other, but stretch through your ring fingers. Keep pulling your thumbs against each other as you reach your arms all the way up above your head. So this one's easier because it doesn't ask as much of the wrist, okay, but it's harder on the thumb, but you really want to get that thumb to have release of tension also. Then reach up one more time and inhale up through the chest, and then as you exhale, bring your chin down to your chest. Then move your arms up and back, up again, back again. Then raise the head all the way back up and reach up one more time. Really feel that lower abdomen drawing in, and then bring the arms down. Switch the grip of your thumbs. And you don't even have to stretch them out yet. Even just pulling that thumb against each other, it's almost like you're giving yourself a little hand massage. All right, and then pull the thumbs against each other and stretch to the ring fingers to straighten your arms. Go back to the base, let your shoulders release away from the ears and push down with your feet and lift up with your ankles and continue that lift all the way up until your fingertips are above your head. Pull your thumbs against each other, stretch to the ring fingers, inhale, lift up well into the chest, bring the chin down to the chest, move your arms up, back, one more time up, and then release the head back up toward the center, and then release your hands and come all the way down. And just feel the vitality. And I feel a lift, but I also feel an additional spreading across the front of my collarbones after just having done those two basic shoulder stretches. And that spreading of the collarbones is supported by the shoulder blade action, right? So they kind of go together. The shoulder blades move in away from the neck, into the body and up a little bit. And that supports the lift and broadening of the chest in front. With a pair of actions. All right, then stretch your legs out again. Go ahead and take your strap. You can try putting it in a slightly different place on the foot if you would like to. Maybe I'm actually trying up a little higher than I normally do. Join the big toes together and spread your other toes wide apart. And particularly what I'm noticing today as I'm doing my toe spreading, that my right little toe is not really wanting to move away from the toe beside it quite as much as that left side is. So I'm actually going to try and use my strap. I'm going to put my strap between the recalcitrant toe and see if that helps give it a little bit more ability to pull, but you don't have to do that. Yeah. All right, maybe we'll do something else. Okay. Here we are done. Okay, so here's the new thing that comes from Lori. It doesn't mean that it's like brand new and made up. It just means that either I've never done it before, been taught it before, or I have forgotten about it if I have done it before. I need to start advertising this more, but Lori is going to do a short workshop the third weekend in January through Yoga Tree. It'll just be 2 afternoon classes. I don't know the price or anything yet. It'll be Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, probably at like 1. All right, but what you're going to do is make a big loop, sit in swastikasana, and you're going to make a big loop with your strap. Oh, but before we do that, we're going to do one thing. Kirsten, you're going to stay upright, but everyone else, before we do the little backward thing, which isn't new, go ahead and just take a brick, fold forward, rest your forehead on the brick or on your forearms on the brick, and just let yourself have a little bit of groin release in this forward folding action. If you can go down lower than a big brick, go ahead and do so. We're about to open the groins in the opposite direction. Okay? But sometimes that lengthening of the groin and things like Matsyasana actually goes better if you release the groins in the forward bend first. All right, and then come up. So we'll do that between sides. So you're gonna have that handy. Okay, so here's the belt. You need a pretty big loop. And this is the figure 8 of the belt. Okay, so see, here's my bottom right foot. I put it underneath my bottom right foot. Then I cross the belt and it's got another loop now. Okay. Then I put that loop underneath my bottom left foot over the top right leg, and then I pull the strap tight. Okay. So the idea in doing this is that your feet, okay, are attached to your knees. Okay. So the strap is basically pulling your feet up for you. Make sense? The other way you can do it is if you have 2 straps, you can just belt one foot to one knee and the other foot to the other knee. So that's what it's called. Just giving you a little chance to work on that. That's it, Lena. You got it. Okay. All right. Now, I'm just turning to the side so you can see, and I've got the bolster here. So I'm going to lean back a little bit. Then I'm going to push down with my hands on the bolster so that there's a little bit and lift my buttocks up, and there's a little bit of room for my knees to release down toward the floor. Okay. Kirsten, it might work better for you to just turn your bolster vertically and lay down with your legs crossed. Okay, so that way that you won't do any strain on the lower back. So you might think that. Okay, so that's what we're all going to do. You're going to press down with your hands on the bolster, lean back a little bit. You can also, maybe the bolster doesn't help you lean back, but you want to lift those buttocks up, push the feet into the ground, take your hamstrings and your buttocks toward each other, and really let those groins release and lengthen down to the floor. Okay, try it 2 more times. Okay. So you're going to lift up, okay. Keep your shoulders back, lean back a little bit, and then lift up by pushing your feet into the floor, lifting your buttocks up high. Take your hamstrings and buttocks toward each other, and then see if you can lean back a little bit more and open those groins. Good. And then release and come down. I know you just got yourself into the strap, but you got to undo the strap. And stretch your legs out into Dandasana again. Kristen, you're going to stay in Dandasana. Okay? But the rest of us are going to lean back and then lift your legs up a little bit like you were doing a Purvottanasana, okay? Because you are. Okay? Join the hamstrings and the buttocks to each other and open those front groins, and then reach your head back, keeping your chest well lifted. Good. And then release and come down. If that's too much on anyone's wrist, you can also stay in Dandasana. Okay. All right. Then switch the cross of your legs the opposite way. And here's the loop of the strap. I just called the loop like this. Okay. Then I put the loop underneath my right foot. Then I cross the belt into a figure 8.
Apologies, were we going to do the forward swastika?
Oh, yeah, we can still do it with our legs crossed. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, go ahead and put your belt on. Thank you, Vicki. You can also fold forward with your belt on. Okay. Again, Kirsten, you just stay upright and you can repeat the shoulder action if you want, or you can just fold forward a little bit, whatever feels comfortable for you. Okay. So I start off personally, unless I'm doing this every day, this forward folding action is pretty difficult for me. Okay, so I have to start with my brick on the tall level, and my forearms are also on the brick. But then as I stay for a couple of breaths, I can feel the groin descend and the back get broader. I'm going to say, okay, maybe I can lower my brick down. And on this side, I'm even thinking, maybe you can go all the way flat. So you just find a place of the brick, so like Vicki, a lot of you can just go straight to the floor. So if you can go straight to the floor, go straight to the floor. Yeah, that's also fine. You might need more than one brick. Yeah. All right. And come up, either using the bolster or not. Okay. Lean back a little bit and have your hands behind you. Okay. And you're going to push your feet into the floor, energetically lift your ankles up and lift your buttocks up off the floor. Okay. Like you're doing a bent leg Purvottanasana. Make your hamstrings and your buttocks go toward each other and see if you can get just a little bit of release coming to the groin. That looks really good, everyone. All right, and then lower yourself down. Then you're going to do it 2 more times. If this is too much on the wrist, the option you can do, or if you're you could also just do a more passive work. Okay, so if you feel I know several of you have some issues with your wrists, and I do too. But this sequence, I don't know if we'll get there today, but this sequence eventually leads toward Urdhva. Okay, so you can think about this hand work. That's an upward bow pose. Okay. You can think about this hand work as preparing the wrists, okay, to do pushing up from the floor someday. Okay, but you don't want to wear out your wrists. Okay, so you can just do it passively like Marsha's doing if you see Marsha up on the screen. Nice, Karen. That looks really good. Very good. Excellent. Okay, then undo your belt. So just take it up from underneath your feet. Stretch your legs out into Dandasana. Either stay in Dandasana or lean back a little bit, have your hands a little bit behind your buttocks, extend through the toes and lift your buttocks up high. We'll engage your quadriceps well. Lift the chest up. You can keep the chin kind of out of the game like we did in the shoulder work at first, but then you extend your head backward. He actually says in the book, throw your head back, but I think it means an intelligent full extension of the neck backward, not throwing like a baseball. Yeah, okay. All right, and then you come down. That was good. All right, so the next one is you either repeat what we just did, or if you can, okay, bring one leg into Padmasana, just one. Right? Even if you can do full Padmasana, do half, all right? So I've got my right leg on top first. I'm gonna go ahead and belt my leg again. Okay? So you don't really need to belt the Padmasana foot, but I often do just because it keeps it in place too. But in theory, the Padmasana foot should be held in place because it's on top of the thigh. Right? So the foot in half Padmasana that we're really trying to attach is the bottom foot, right, onto the top knee. Right? So you can either stay here in Padmasana. Okay? If you're not folding forward, another nice option that everyone can even do a little bit of, you can do a nice little seated twist in the half Padmasana, which feels very good for the lower back. If you don't have half Padmasana, totally fine. Okay, you just repeat the swastikasana. You could also, while you're sitting just straight upright, you could do foot on foot. Okay. But here we are. Then you're going to fold forward again. And it may be easier for you to fold forward in half Padmasana. If it hurts your knee, don't fold forward. Okay. You can just stay upright and do your shoulder work. And then sit up. And it's the same thing. You're going to lean back a little bit. I'm going to try using my bolster for this one. Lean back a little bit and press your foot down and lift your buttocks up and extend from that inner groin through the inner knee. That looks really good, Karen. Both Karens, that looks great. And then release and come down. Again, you have always the option of laying down vertically on your bolster, okay? So if it's too much on the wrists, or it feels like it's too much on the lower back or too much on the groin, just let it be a more passive opening and have your bolster and lie down, okay? And particularly in the half Padmasana, I can really feel that I really have to access those hamstring buttock connection, and I get more of a release in the groin. All right. And undo your Padmasana legs. You have to undo your strap, then undo the Padmasana. And just for something slightly different to do before we do the Purvottanasana, let your legs come out wide in Baddha and Upavishta Konasana, seated wide angle pose. So now this really works with width in the groin. It feels pretty good to do after the Padmasana where we're all bound, actually. Okay. All right, then bring your legs back together into Dandasana. Yeah. Lean back a little bit and then do a Purvottanasana. And feel that opening that comes in the front groin. Good. You can, another option of Purvottanasana, which goes better for some people, is to keep your knees bent and lift your legs up and lift your buttocks up. That's easier. But what's nice about doing this extended Purvottanasana after this groin work is you can really feel the vertical length that comes in the front groin. So I just leave that to you. Okay. All right. Nice, Bob. That looks really good. Good, Cliff. All right, then we got our second half Padmasana side to do. Right. Okay. So now I have to bring my opposite leg in first. Oh, so this side is a little harder for me, and I'm seeing a couple of you don't do the Padmasana easily. So this is what I mean by a pose. It's called foot on foot. Okay. I've got my one foot here on the bottom, the knees out wide, and then I put the other foot on top, and that prepares the hips to be doing Padmasana. So you can keep your legs here for a little while, and then you can just go back to the swastikasana. Or sometimes the half Padmasana goes better on the other side. Half Padmasana, your foot's going to be stuck here. Again, you really have to just worry about belting the bottom foot to the opposite knee. And then you just fold things in as they need to. All right, fold, it's a pattern. We've got it now, right? So either stay upright. Oh, we did a twist last time. That was nice. Okay. Twisting in this Padmasana, yeah, that's really good, Karen Carpenter. I really like to twist and foot on foot a lot. Okay. It feels really nice across the lower back. And then twist and release the other way. All right, then we're going to release the groins now by folding forward. And when I fold forward and think about that as groin release, I think about that as depth. Okay? So I think about the groins going back, but also kind of angling down toward my sitting bones toward the floor. So they both draw in, okay, but they also move down a little bit. And particularly the more I can get the groin to move diagonally down, that's really the action that helps me fold forward more and releases some of the tension in the groin. On this side, I can also feel that my buttock is really tight on the left side, and it released some of the tension of my buttock on the left side as well. Okay, come back up. You either stay upright, either do it supported, laying down on your bolster the vertical way, or lift up. Well, use your hands, lift up, move your hamstrings and buttocks toward each other and extend your knees out. Release down. Try that a couple more times. Bolster's not really helping me a lot, so I'm going to get rid of it and lift up and lift down. Not even on this side, I'm not even getting that much clearance from the floor, if I'm honest about it. But I am really trying to work my hamstrings and buttocks, lean back and lean those knees down toward the floor so the groin releases. All right, then sit yourself back down. Carefully undo your legs. Let's do the Upavishtakonasana again. So we worked on depth in the forward folding. We worked on length in the leaning backwards. And the other aspect of groin opening is width. Okay, so poses like this Upavishtakonasana give us width across the groin. Spread your toes well like you're doing Dandasana. From the little toe side of the foot, draw up into the outer hips. That looks really good, Marsha. Very good, good. Well, Marsha is leaning forward a little bit. And she has very long legs with very sparkly tights, and she's perfectly angled underneath her Christmas tree. So it's a very nice image if you are not on the gallery view. All right, so now we have to bring the legs together, and then there's the last one. We have the last Purvottanasana. Lean back a little bit, extend through your toes, make sure your quadriceps and your thighs are engaged, and then push down with your hands, lift up, move your hamstrings and buttocks really toward each other, lift up a little bit more, and then extend your head back into Purvottanasana. We could do, of course, full Padmasana, but I think in the interest of time and doing some other fun things, we will do some other fun things instead. Okay. All right. Go ahead and take a brick and a blanket. Then you're going to sit in Vajrasana, what I'm going to call Vajrasana 1, which is when your feet ideally are completely together. Okay. You can't see, but here are my feet together. Okay. And then I'm going to sit down, and ideally my heels would stay together, and they're not quite staying together, but okay. So that's Vajrasana 1, and I've got a little blanket here. And then just see, can you lift one knee up a little bit and get a little bit more of a stretch on the ankle? I don't know how it's probably not going to work on your other ankle, Vicki, but lean back a little bit and just lift the knee up and see that they get the stretch in the front of the ankle. So that front ankle stretch we actually need for Padmasana. We need for Virasana, all kinds of poses. And sometimes it gets really tight. But there's also another way that the ankles have to bend, which is called when you really turn your toes under. So I've got my toes really turned back underneath my feet. And I'm really trying to pull the toes in toward the back of my knees so much that a little bit, the ball of my foot is actually getting stretched and touched on the floor. So this is kind of stretching the toes in the opposite direction, right?
A little bit here.
And it's kind of painful, particularly if you don't do it regularly. But this kind of toe work is very similar, so I've got a blanket here, to doing this with our fingers all the time, right? We're going to stretch out the fingers, stretch out the thumb. And so, you know, the fingers and the toes obviously are related to each other. So you want to make sure you're also doing that work with your fingers. But then after you finish that particular toe torture, go ahead and sit back down into the first one, Vajrasana 1, and you should really feel a difference. It should feel a little bit easier. So by stretching the toes in that kind of painful way, and when you go back and do Vajrasana 1, it's release some of the tension in the front of the body, right? Does that make sense to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
First, and the second one might be a little too intense for you, so you can just do the first one. All right. Spread your palms, turn your toes under. Oh, and look, here our toes are turned under, just like we did in Vajrasana 2. And then stretch your legs back into downward facing dog. And it should feel quite good to stretch out the backs of your legs and your knees after having done all of our bent knee work that we did today. We did a couple more that like thirds. I've also been taking a lot of classes during the quarantine with an Italian teacher named David Maloney. And he has this approach of, I've taught it a lot. He has the approach of downward facing dog of really coming up onto the toes. Okay? So not even just the balls of the feet, but really coming up so much that you're getting that same Vajrasana 2 stretching your little toes. And then you can really see how much that opens the front of the ankle and it engages the quadriceps even more. And then you just roll over the balls of the feet, reach through the arches and see if your heels come a little bit more to the floor. The other reason he does that is when you go ahead and do that again, come up onto the balls of the feet, it helps you get the outer femur bone drawing in action again. One more time. Way up on the balls of the feet. Feel the climb. And then reach all over the balls of the feet, heels. All right, good. Nice Karen Carpenter, nice arm action. Then walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones, roll your shoulder bones back, and come all the way back up. We're gonna sit back down in just a minute and do a couple more little things for the feet. But as you're standing here in Tadasana, see if you can, my feet feel very different than they usually do. They feel, without me even really doing very much in terms of an actual instructions to myself, I can feel that there's some nice spread of the toes. Yeah. And I feel a pretty even distribution of weight over the balls of the feet and the heels. And I feel some compaction coming into the hips. Yeah. So all that seated work at the very beginning of class, yeah, has a really nice payoff. And the standing work that we sometimes do. Okay. All right. One more little experiment with toes flat and toes turned under and the seated work. This time we're going to do the same thing, but in Virasana. Okay. So I'm going to use a brick, and that if you want to not use a brick, it's okay. So this is similar to Vajrasana 1 in that the feet are flat. Let's turn to the side. And I am actually noticing that more of my shin, particularly on the left side, is in better contact with the floor than usual. With one knee. You can even lean back a little bit. So you get some nice stretch in that leg or the shin, and then lay the foot back down. Then you can reach back and get your toe and pull your toes back. So you're lengthening the shin bone. And then you can do the same thing on the second side. So this is Virasana. Yeah. Let's call it Virasana 1. Now, if you can bring your buttocks down to your heels, I mean to the floor, that's the final pose. Yeah. Right. But now this one's pretty hard. Okay. Can you turn your toes under with your feet out in the Virasana shape? Okay. This is not as bad as it was yesterday for me. And I've now done this 3 days in a row, and it is easier. But when I first did it on Thursday night, I couldn't get all the way down to my brick, so I had to put a blanket on my brick. Now, eventually, you can actually get rid of the brick, and in theory, your feet, your buttocks could go all the way down to the floor. Mine don't. I'm on my tall brick. Well, I'm on the medium brick height. Oh, all right. Then make your feet be flat again, and sit in Virasana. And that particular version of foot mashing is over for today. Sort of. Then come forward onto your hands and your knees again. Spread your palms. Turn your biceps like you were doing in Dandasana, and turn those toes under. And then pull all the way back into downward facing dog again. And once you get the weight back into, oh wow, my heels just went very nicely to the ground after all that work. One more toe stretching, so really lift up. Now as you lift those heels up, try not to let the weight of your body shift toward your arms. Okay? So you want to keep pushing your hands down and forward so that the weight, even when you're way up on your toes, is still in the legs. And then just observe how that extensive toe work really engages the quadriceps, the inner thighs, the outer thighs. Then roll over the balls of the feet and reach your heels back toward the floor. A little bit further back with your feet, Chaya. Karen Carpenter, a little bit, it could be the angle of the camera, but it looks a little bit like your hips are shifted to the right. So see if you can make the right side of your torso a little longer. And you, Melinda, are actually shifting a little to the left. Just see if you can, you might want to work sometimes with the heels at the wall. Okay. All right, then everyone walk forward till your feet are right. Place your hands on your toes. Roll and come all the way up.
And I don't know if everybody's muted.
Yeah, I don't know if they are either. Yeah, so make sure that you mute yourself so if your phone does go off, it doesn't go off for everyone. Okay. Of course, if it's my phone, it's gonna go off. Okay. So I should turn my phone off, but the ringer is off on my phone. But anyway, okay, so just make sure you're muted. Okay. I can, almost everyone's muted. All right. Oh, the power of being the host. I just unmuted the people who are not muted. All right, stand in Tadasana again. I'm going to take a slight detour from where this is originally going. It kind of goes into some belly down back bends, but I want Kirsten to be able to play along too. And so I'm going to, but I also saw some things I want to work on a little bit in downward facing dog. Okay, so everyone stand in Tadasana again. So when we're in Tadasana, you know, it's another name of the pose is called even standing, Samastiti. So, and ideally, you know, your hips are pretty level, the sides of the torso are level, and roll your shoulders back. Do your shoulder blade actions and extend through the ring fingers. Okay. But sometimes when we go into, like, let's say a pose like Trikonasana. Okay. So go ahead and we'll work on the shoulder thing a little bit. Go ahead and get your strap, okay, and have a brick. And put the strap, it's now going to be a smaller loop, but put the strap on your right shoulder. And then you're going to pull the strap with your left hand. Yeah, I think we did this last week and people professed to like it. Okay, all right. So now you step out wide with your legs like a standing Upavishta Konasana, which is called Ardha Hasta Padangusthasana. So still not too difficult to keep the sides of the torso straight, right? Because we haven't done anything weird with the hips yet, okay? But when you turn the left toes in and the right leg out, okay, even here, you probably saw that what happened to me is the side of the body begins to get a little short because it turns away from the front of the room. So I'm gonna pull in my strap and make sure my sides of my torso stay pretty same in the length. Now, when you go out to the side, you have to actually lengthen even more through this bottom side of the torso, turn the torso and bring the hand down. Okay. Now a little bit, I've got this rounding in this lower side of my torso, so I'm gonna really try and lengthen, pull with my strap and turn up. Those look good, everyone. All right, and then go ahead and come all the way up. And then turn your feet, walk your feet back in, and then switch the strap to the other side. If you happen to have two straps, okay, you can put one strap on each shoulder blade and do this same work without switching. And it feels really good to have both of the shoulder blades moving in. But I know that that's a lot to ask, to have two straps. Okay. I mean, I happen to have 8 straps, but you know, of varying lengths, thicknesses, because they're good for different things. Okay. So your legs are out wide like Upavishta Konasana, your arms are out wide, and you've got this strap to help your shoulder blade action, but it also gives you more opening in the chest. Things start to get a little complicated when you turn your toes in and the other leg out. Because of that tightness in the groin that we were addressing at the first of the class, the groin is tight here, so it kind of pulls the torso with the turn of the leg. Okay? So what we have to do is separate that. Okay? So that leg is externally rotating like the Padmasana work, but your torso actually has to stay as upright as possible. And that requires that depth in the groin that we worked on in the forward work. Okay, then press that through your heel, turn your torso slightly toward the screen and pull and reach with your arm as you bring your hand down. And try and keep reaching out. Now I can even feel here, my sides of my torso are not staying straight. So I'm gonna bring my hand down, maybe not as far. You don't always have to work this way. Okay, but that's good, Vicki, that looks really good. Okay. But it's a nice thing to kind of pay attention to sometimes. Okay. All right, and then come all the way back up. And then walk your feet together. Turn your feet first and walk your feet together. And I just want to point out something too. Yeah, we're gonna do Vrikshasana next. But go ahead and if you have your Light on Yoga with you, go ahead and take a look at it. Because what I noticed in several of you, I'll just tell you what I saw. In several of you, when we were doing downward facing dog, even though it's a symmetrical pose, the sides of your torsos weren't even, okay? So we're gonna go back and do downward facing dog in a little while again and work with the heels at the wall. But I just want you to look at the first poses in the book, okay? So like here's Tadasana, okay? It's plate 1. Okay? And can you see from the perspective of the sides of his torso how even they are, right? He's not really, I mean, it's not that hard to accomplish in Tadasana. But then look at the second pose in the book, which is called Vrikshasana or tree pose. And look how they're actually more even in the sides of the torso in Vrikshasana because he's got the arms lifting above his head. So we're gonna do that pose next. But the pose we just did, Trikonasana, okay? So that's Uddhita Hasta Padangusthasana there, okay? That's Dante in the back, checking things out. All right, and then, but look when he tips over, okay? The sides of the torso are pretty even, right? This is Trikonasana right here. Okay? Yeah, I mean, it's a little tiny bit curved on the bottom part, but pretty even. So really, if you look just from the perspective of the torso, from Tadasana to Vrikshasana to Tita Hasta Padasana to Tadasana to Trikonasana, it's all very even. Okay? All right, so we're going to now do Vrikshasana in that arm position and see if that helps us with evenness. And then we're going to try and explore downward facing dog a little bit more. Oh, Dante's here just in time for downward facing dog. There he is. Okay. And we're going to see about that arm work in Vrikshasana to really help us get that extension in the sides of the torso. Okay. So go ahead and come back. Dante, you look huge with this angle. Into Tadasana. And so again, we've got the evenness. We just worked on it in Trikonasana. And so then there's a similar issue in some ways with Vrikshasana when you turn your leg and lift the leg up high. Again, because of tightness in the groin, sometimes we lose, even here, the symmetry of the sides of the torso. And so you can externally rotate your leg a little bit more. I'm against the wall, just partly for balance and partly to get more sense of that symmetry in the sides of the torso. And then he gets even longer in the sides of the torso by reaching his arms way, way, way above his head. Now I'm at the wall, so I can't move my arms back that much. Yeah. But I'm lifting them up as much as I can. Now push your foot and your thigh into each other and really lengthen up through the sides of your ribs. And what you're after is feeling even sensation, okay, from the sides of the ribs all the way up through the armpits, and really press those fingers together. Okay. And then bring yourself back down into Tadasana. Okay, that went well. Those look really nice. Nice, Chaya. Very good. All right, then turn the opposite leg out. Look, here's the Padmasana groin release work that we did again. Okay, lift the leg up, and then place the foot as high on your thigh as you can. Push your foot and your thigh into each other, so as much as possible, you're standing on that leg. And one thing that is nice, I mean, it's up to you what kind of view you want to use. I spotlight myself, but when I'm teaching, I see all of you, but I have one square that I see myself with. And you can really use that to give yourself some really good feedback, okay, about what your body is doing, right? So if you have one little square that you look at yourself, it's almost like doing yoga by a mirror. Okay. So I can say, oh, you know what? On this side, I can see there's tightness here, and so it's not quite as even on this side. So I'm going to push down, lift up, and see if I can lift up a little bit more with my right side. So I'm going for that even sides of the torso as much as possible as I'm in Vrikshasana. Very good, everyone. All right, and then release and come down. All right. So in downward facing dog, okay, what I think what's happening, I'm going to try and show from the back part, okay, is I think one thing to check out always is that your feet are even, but what was happening is as you pull back, do you see how one side of my body is kind of shorter now? Like there's a little curve, or there's a little curve that way. Yeah. So that's where a wall can really come in handy. Yeah. So go ahead and move your sticky mat to the wall. Okay. And partly because I was noticing you could do it with your hands at the wall, but it won't be as effective. Yeah. You're going to stand close to the wall, but not so close that your buttocks won't hit the wall. Okay. So eventually I'm going to end up with my heels up the wall. Okay. And they're up the wall about at where my base board is, but you can't really start off like that. Okay. So you have to kind of guess about your downward facing dog distance. And then you're going to walk your feet back and have both heels at the wall. And so what's happening is that the heels at the wall are going to ensure that there's an evenness in the legs. And then hopefully that's going to translate up the body so that you'll have better evenness. That's much better, Melinda. Very good. Good. Karen Carpenter, walk your hands a little bit further forward. Marsha, also walk your hands a little bit further forward. And you know, if you are someone who does tip to one side or the other side, it may feel weird or uneven, like you may feel, oh, one shoulder isn't doing things quite the same way, right? Because you just take an imprint of what it feels like to do this pose with your heels against the wall. Okay? Then bend your knees, come down. Walk your hands a little bit forward, okay, so that your feet will not touch the wall anymore. And see if you can go back up with that same feeling of evenness in your legs and your body that the wall gave you. Usually why it actually goes wrong or awry, let's say, is because there's a kind of unevenness in the shoulders. Okay? Yeah, that's so much better. Okay, to those of you I was noticing it in, which was 4 or 5 of you, that really helped. Okay. Try though a little bit now that you're at the wall, you're still listing a little bit to your left. Yeah, so just make, yep, you just fixed it. Good. Okay, great job, everyone. All right, walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Turn your toes, and then come all the way back up. Okay, so that was a lot of downward facing dog work. That was good. Okay. All right, now let's do a little bit of head supported Uttanasana or concave Uttanasana. Okay. So start with your feet out wide, or not super wide, but as wide as your hips. Then you're going to come first into the concave stage of the pose. If you need bricks for your hands, do so. Yeah, this is a pose where it's pretty easy to keep the hips even. And then you're going to come down and put the brick right on the crown of the head. And then you can also, even here, if your hands are on the back side of the brick, you can interlace your hands and your elbows, and you can move your bent arms away from the brick. And it gives you, nice Vicky, it gives you a lot of nice opening in the thoracic spine. Okay? You know, a lot of times when we bend the elbows, we just use that to help hang and get more extension in the spine. But you can also work with this motion and get a little bit more. It's a little wide, Chaya, because we're going to do Prasarita Padottanasana a little bit. So bring your feet closer together. You can be out as wide as the sticky mat, but don't be as wide as Prasarita Padottanasana, which is with your feet like triangle pose distance, because we want to, Melinda, put your hands on the other side of the brick. So you might need to move the brick in closer to you. Yeah, there you go. All right, everyone come all the way back up. That was good. Okay. So I kind of snuck that on you, and it's a little different than how we normally work, and I didn't really demonstrate it, which is, you know, one of the main rules of Iyengar yoga, that you're supposed to demonstrate some new actions. Well, 6. Okay, so partly I am going in the direction of us getting ready to do headstand. Okay? And one of the things that we have to work on when we're working on headstand is getting the thoracic spine to move in, right? Just this part of the thoracic spine. Because if that pushes back in headstand, okay, one of the things that can give us tension in the neck from doing headstand. So you've got to really be strong in that thoracic spine area, and also for shoulder stand, because we're going to do that too. That has to really go in, and it's a lot of work. Okay, so this bent arm action is going to help us take that part of the thoracic spine in. Okay, so I'm going to do it facing you because I think you'll see better, but maybe you'll see also from the side. So if I just have my head here supported and my hands are down, my shoulders kind of drop, but I can lift them up. But look here when I do this. You see how it goes in? I don't know if you can see, but I can feel it. It goes in, and then you can also, and that's exactly what you need for a headstand. Okay? So try that one more time. Okay. But your hands have to be on the side of the brick that's furthest away from you in order for them to move, right? So you may need to move the brick in a little bit closer towards you, which also might mean that you need a little bit more height than you usually do, okay? So you're gonna go down, yeah, there you go. Have the crown of the head. That'll work too, Marsha. Marsha's got her hands interlaced behind on her back, okay? But let your hands just fall down to the floor, and you'll feel, okay, that the shoulders get kind of falling down. Okay. then you can lift the shoulders up, but now interlace your hands and your elbows. Okay. Put them on the opposite side of the brick. That's it, Karen, good. And then move them, with some motion, but with intelligent motion. And you should feel both it is opening the armpits and the shoulders, but also that middle part of your thoracic spine goes in a little bit more. And then try it on the other side. Yes, all that means is switch the grip of the elbow. So you're holding the opposite elbow interlace. Yeah, Shai, that's really working well for you. Okay, good. Nice, Bob. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, I think y'all probably all saw that. All right, now put your hands on the floor. Take your brick out of the way if you need to, and just walk back again into downward facing dog. And see if you can feel the effect of that thoracic spine work now in your downward facing dog. So that hopefully your downward facing dog also has, yeah, there you go. Now, the armpits are more open from what I can see. The thoracic spine is going in from what I can see. And they're very good. That was a very worthwhile detour from my perspective as a yoga teacher. Okay. All right, then walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. I was going to do Prasarita Padottanasana, but in the interest of time, I'm going to go right into Shirshasana, okay? But do whatever you do when Shirshasana rolls around. If you don't do Shirshasana, an excellent thing to do would be the wide leg apart Prasarita Padottanasana. And if you want to get that in anyway, you can go ahead and just do it for a little while before you go into shoulder stand. Okay? But you can also do headless headstand, shoulder stand prep. Just do whatever you do when headstand rolls around. That can be against the wall. It can be Prasarita Padottanasana. It can be the wide leg pose again. That looks shoulder action looks great, Bob. A little bit though, Bob, it looks like your hips are twisting to the left. So since you're at the wall, make sure that's it. Make sure you can feel the whole back leg even at the wall. Okay. And then also those of you doing shoulder stand, that looks good, Melinda, just a tiny bit more through your inner heels. That also looks really good, Vicki. All right, good, Marcia. Though once you get settled, Marcia, it looks like you might need to bring the weight a little bit more back onto the head. Okay, that's pretty good. No, actually that's Cliff. Okay, Cliff, move your legs a little bit toward the door. Okay, sorry, y'all had to switch because you're doing your chair. Karen Higgins, a tiny bit. Your feet are listing to the right. Okay, good. That was much better, Marcia. Good. And keep pressing your forearms down, lifting your shoulders up. Yeah, I really like the corner game. Vicki, it's probably the boot, but a tiny bit, it looks like you are leaning toward the boot side. It's probably just because it's heavier and it's pulling you in that direction. Vicki, while you have, you actually are pretty straight, but while you have the boot, you too might experiment with doing corner Shirshasana, because that would give you a lot of good feedback about the evenness of the hips, and you wouldn't get pulled to the side at all. But I have to say you're doing a remarkable job there. So that looks good, Gay. Just move your rib cage back a little bit. Good. Cliff, the shoulders are good, but your legs need to move toward the bed. So can you wiggle your legs, Cliff, over toward the bed? Yeah, even a little bit more. Tiny bit more. Yes, there you go. That's completely even. Bob, you look really good too. Okay. Now we're going to come down. So everyone, most of you are at the wall, so you're going to need to come down one leg at a time. Now go ahead and come down and bring your legs all the way down to the wall. Sorry, bring your legs down to the floor and rest in downward facing child's pose. Good job, everyone. Okay, then go ahead and come up. We're going to do a Chatushpadasana and then a new Briksatu Bandha, but with a slightly different approach. And then probably legs up the wall first. Okay, so go ahead and lie down on the floor. First, and if you just want to do supported Sajivanda or supported Baddha Konasana, those would be good options. Okay, so first, no props, right? So you're just gonna lie down on the back with your knees close to you, with your feet close to the buttocks and your knees bent. And then before you even do anything else at all, push down with your upper arms and tuck your shoulders underneath you more. So hopefully you feel that your shoulder blades are really nice and flat on the floor. And you should feel hopefully that same broadness across the collarbones that we were working on. Then hold on to the sides of the sticky mat with your hands. Push your feet down and oh, here comes the Purvottanasana work again, right? From the beginning of class. Move your hamstrings and your buttocks toward each other. Feel the nice opening in the groin. Then hold on to the sticky mat and tuck your shoulders more. Make sure your hamstrings and your buttocks are working. Now, pull the sticky mat away from your head and you'll feel your trapezius muscles release, but also energetically drag your heels toward the shoulder blades and you'll feel that shoulder blade action engage more and you get more opening in the chest. Keep the opening in the chest and lower yourself all the way back down to the floor. Okay. The next one I like to do is with the fingers interlaced underneath my buttocks, okay? So if you can do that, great. If you can't, you can continue to hold on to the sides of the sticky mat. All right, so ready? Press your feet down and lift your buttocks up high. And you support that front groin opening with a lot of hamstring and buttock engagement. Then interlace your fingers and tuck your shoulders more. Now, pull your finger knuckles toward your feet, but energetically drag your heels toward your shoulder blades and you'll feel even more opening in the chest. Switch the grip of your fingers and do that again. Tuck, pull your knuckles toward your feet, but energetically pull your heels toward your shoulder blades. Then release your fingers and come all the way down. And feel that increased opening in the chest. Right. The next version is with the arms bent. Okay. So one more time with Chatushpadasana. Press your feet down and lift your buttocks up high. Tuck your shoulders underneath you. Now push your upper arms down into the floor to feel the lift in the chest. Also energetically move your elbows toward your heels and your heels toward your shoulder blades. Now take your awareness to the backs of the shoulder blades and rotate your palms to face toward your face, and you'll feel the shoulder blades come in even a little bit more. And then lower yourself all the way down. Okay, pretty good, everyone. Yeah. All right, the next one is Brick Setubandha, but I want to give us a little prop. Okay, this is another one I've been taught this before. I just don't often regularly do it for myself in Brick Setubandha, and it actually makes a huge difference. We're also going to stretch the legs out straight. And sometimes that's hard to do. So I'm going to give myself a little advantage by having a bolster for my feet. And why I like the bolster for my feet, both is I can put the feet on top if I need to, but I can also begin to work to put my feet under the bolster, and it doesn't mess it up, whereas I can't do that with bricks for my feet. So that's why I have the bolster there, the bricks would work. Then you'll still need you'll need a brick, but here's the part second part we don't normally do. I've got a blanket that's in headstand shape, and then from there I'm going to vertically trifold it. So it's pretty narrow. Okay. Then you may have to adjust a bit with the position of everything. Okay. This is for the shoulders. Okay. My head's still going to be on the floor. So if you don't like your head on sticky mat, you could get a little bit of, padding to put down for the back of the head, but it should be like a washcloth, something that's narrow. So something that's thin. Okay, so here it, and it's a little bit more like it also has a nice benefit of making your neck be a little bit more prepared for shoulder stand because you've got this lift here. But I'm gonna come up, tuck, and put the brick underneath my sacrum like I normally do. And the thing that's just even here, you maybe can even hear it in my voice, is giving myself this little bit of lift makes the whole experience much easier. So the back of my head's on the floor, my shoulders are on the lift. I do a little test and see if I have my bolster in the right place, and then bring my leg back to the center. Okay, so I'm gonna come down and take a look at your setup, and then I'll go back and do it with you. Okay, so again, head's on the floor, shoulders are on the little skinny blanket. Okay. Marcia, looks to me a tiny bit like your brick is too much toward your lumbar spine, just a little bit. Okay. Okay, there you go. Okay. All right, you can use whatever block height you can work with, but I find with that little lift, the top block is a lot easier. Okay, the first order of business with the legs are actually with the legs bent. Okay, so put your feet back on the floor. Okay. Tuck your shoulders underneath you, and then walk your legs together. Okay. It may feel like there's magnets pulling them apart, but you have to be strong in your inner thighs and keep your legs together. Unless that feels like it's pinching the back, and then you can have your feet a little bit apart, okay? All right, so that's stage one. Say of Satyabandha. The next stage of Satyabandha would be to try to straighten out both of your legs. Or sometimes it works better to straighten out one leg at a time. Now here, this pose is extremely hard for me. And it really gets at what's tight about my groin. So we did a lot of work today to help with that. But the shoulder blanket for me really makes the pose more tolerable. I could even almost now get my leather, and they're not really straight, but with the bolster, they're pretty straight. Okay. All right, so that's Satyabandha, let's say stage 2. Okay. Another one that's fun is you can bend your legs together again. Okay, is to try and lift one leg straight up toward the ceiling. Okay. And then maybe you can stretch your other leg out straight to the floor. Okay, so that's called Ekapada Satyabandha. And then you bring the legs back in, lift the opposite leg up, and then if you can, stretch the other leg out. Do that. And then you can come back for another couple of cycles of breath with your legs out straight in Satyabandha. Another thing some people like to do is lift both legs up on the brick, which makes it be like a brick Viparita Karani, which many of you are doing. That looks really good, Karen Carpenter. Good. Nice, Lena. Just make sure your bottom leg, Lena, isn't turning out so that the toes are going straight ahead. All righty, very good, everyone. All right, then everyone bend your knees, put them down on the floor, come up onto your toes, and lower yourself all the way down to the floor. Okay, so that was basically what we did instead of shoulder stand and Viparita Karani. So let's end, we've got 5 minutes left in class, so let's end in the Shavasana of your choice, okay? You know, that could be with something underneath your knees, that could just be laying flat on the floor. It could be with something on the tops of your thighs. You could even do prone Shavasana if you're so inclined. Set up for the Shavasana that you feel called to do. That feeling of call is what is called viveka. It means discriminative discernment, that you have the capacity to know what an intelligent choice is for your practice and also for your life. Okay. And that is really and truly something we build up through the practice of yoga. Okay? You might not know. Okay? And if you don't have a sense of, oh, that's what I really want to do, it doesn't just do a shavasana. Okay? Child, that looks to me like it's a tiny bit too much underneath your head. But yeah, just make it be a little less blanket. There you go. Good. And then you just do all of your normal shoulders, heads, shavasana relaxing things. Let your eyes release into the back of your head. Let your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. Unclench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. Let your ears draw inward. Patricia Walden at the last workshop I took with her, and I gave people homework to read the chapter on Shavasana in Light on Pranayama, which is 22 whole pages of things. I think I read some of it to you last week. I'll read another one today. He says, in the beginning, the ribs do not relax. The breath is rough and uneven, while the mind and the intellect waver. The body, the breath, the mind, and the intellect are not united with the self or the Atma. For correct Shavasana, which is what I think we're doing, there must be unity of the body, the breath, the mind, and the intellect, where the self holds the reins. All four, which is the body, breath, mind, and intellect, bow down respectfully to the Atma. Then the chitta, that is composed of manas, buddhi, ahamkara, or ego, which is the state that ascertains I know, becomes samahita chitta, which in the mind and the intellect and the ego are balanced. This is a state of stillness. I like what he says. There must be unity of the body, the breath, the mind, and the intellect. And we cultivate that state of stillness through our practice of Shavasana. Again, remember back what he says about Shavasana and Light on Yoga, that it is the best antidote to the stresses and strains of modern civilization. Where there is stillness or unity of the breath, the body, the mind, and the intellect. Now, from that still place within you, inhale. Consciously use your inhalations to bring that awareness of your true self with you as you go about your work in the world. Place your hands on your rib cage. Bend your knees. Roll over to your right side. And use your hands to push yourself back up. Sit up straight and tall. Lift your chest well. Close your eyes and fold your palms together at your heart. Observe the effect that your practice has on you. Observe it on every layer of your being, from the physical to the most deeply spiritual. In gratitude to the benefit you receive from your practice of yoga, In gratitude to the people you have the opportunity to learn and study and practice yoga with. And in gratitude to the lineage of Hatha Yoga itself, as practiced by BKS Iyengar, reaching back to the sages of India and down to a line of teachers and students to you here on the mat in Austin, Texas, or Paris, France.